Chapter 1. The Last Breath. In the remote, turbulent edges of the Helix Nebula, where the light of newborn stars struggled to penetrate thick veils of cosmic dust, human scout Marcus Calder piloted his weathered reconnaissance vessel with a quiet determination born of countless missions into the unknown. The nebula, a kaleidoscope of swirling gas clouds and iridescent ion storms, was a region rife with mystery and danger, a place where ancient rivalries between alien civilizations had carved scars upon entire star systems. Marcus was no stranger to the weight of such conflicts. His life had been forged in the fires of interstellar war and unyielding exploration. Yet even with his seasoned experience, the mission he now faced was unlike any he had undertaken before. The star charts available to him were fragmented and outdated, relics from a time before the latest flare-ups in the region's volatile border conflicts. The Helix Nebula had long been a no-man's land, its systems abandoned or destroyed in waves of devastating warfare that left husks of planets and shattered fleets drifting silently in the void. Yet recent sensor readings suggested a flicker of life in anomaly unlike the dead silence surrounding it. This faint signal was a beacon amid desolation, and Marcus, propelled by a mix of duty and curiosity, altered course toward its origin. As the vessel pierced the outer layers of the nebula's swirling mists, the atmospheric entry into the planet's orbit was tumultuous. The turbulence tossed the ship violently, a chaotic dance of electromagnetic storms and violent gusts swirling over a fractured, scarred world below. This planet had been ground zero for years of relentless conflict, a battlefield where civilizations clashed with weapons so advanced that entire continents had been reshaped and ecosystems obliterated. The surface was a jigsaw of jagged mountain ranges twisted by seismic upheavals, valleys choked with ash and rubble, and expansive plains marred by craters deep enough to swallow cities whole. Against this bleak landscape, the beacon pulsed faintly like a wounded heart struggling to beat. With surgical precision, Marcus guided the vessel down through the murky atmosphere, his trained eyes scanning for any signs of life or danger. As the ship descended, the twisted wreckage of ancient war machines littered the horizon, hulks of once mighty battle mechs and aerial cruisers half buried in the ashen soil. The echoes of long-forgotten battles seemed to linger in the heavy air, and the silence was broken only by the static hiss of failing machinery and the distant groan of tectonic unrest. It was in this desolate expanse that Marcus's sensors finally locked onto a target, a solitary life form, faint but unmistakable, struggling against the creeping grasp of death beneath the shadow of a colossal wreck. Marcus wasted no time. Activating the vessel's emergency landing protocols, he touched down near the beacon's coordinates with the precision of a pilot who had spent years perfecting such maneuvers under hostile conditions. The ramp descended with a hiss, and Marcus stepped out into the choking dust and bitter wind that swept across the barren landscape. His exosuit's filtration systems whirred softly, filtering the toxic air as he moved cautiously toward the source of the life signal. Each step brought him closer to the fragile figure lying prone amid the twisted wreckage, a warrior unlike any he had ever encountered. The alien lay beneath the shattered remnants of a battle mech, her body draped in armor that shimmered with iridescent colors that shifted with the faint light, like liquid metal kissed by the dying sun. Her skin was a tapestry of intricate patterns and bioluminescent markings, pulsing gently with an otherworldly glow. She was tall and lithe, her form marked by the scars of countless battles, some old, faded by time, others fresh, raw and bleeding. Her breaths were shallow and uneven, the struggle to survive written plainly in the tight line of her jaw and the flicker in her eyes. Yet despite the obvious pain and exhaustion, there was an unmistakable spark of defiance and strength, a warrior's spirit that refused to fade even in the face of death. Marcus knelt beside her, his exosuit's scanners sweeping rapidly across her vital signs, body temperature, and internal trauma. The readings were grim. Severe internal hemorrhaging, respiratory distress, and critical systemic failures compounded by exposure to the planet's toxic atmosphere. The warrior's battle suit, advanced yet battered, had sustained critical damage, and her neural interface was flickering with unstable signals. Time was running out. Marcus's training took over, his hands moving swiftly and confidently, as he deployed emergency medical nanobots and stabilized her breathing with portable respirators. Every procedure was calculated, each motion deliberate and precise, a dance of survival enacted in the shadow of death. As he worked, Marcus's mind raced to comprehend the enigma before him. This was no ordinary alien. Her physiology was unlike any species documented in Federation archives. Her bioluminescent patterns suggested a complex neural network woven through her skin, an evolutionary adaptation that might be tied to communication or camouflage. Her armor, crafted from an unknown alloy, seemed both organic and technological, a synthesis of bioengineering and advanced metallurgy. Even her language, hinted at in broken vocalizations, was unrecognizable, a series of melodic tones interspersed with guttural clicks that defied translation. Yet, beyond the mystery and the danger, Marcus felt a profound connection and instinctual bond between two warriors sharing the raw edge of survival in a hostile universe. The alien's eyes fluttered open, revealing irises that gleamed with a kaleidoscope of shifting colors, reflecting pain but also an unyielding will to live. Though unable to speak, her gaze locked onto Marcus with an intensity that transcended language. It was a silent communication, a passing of trust, and perhaps gratitude from one warrior to another. Marcus could sense the weight of her history in that gaze, the endless battles, the losses endured, and the sacrifices made. She was a sentinel of a war that raged beyond the stars, a lone survivor carrying the echoes of a shattered people. Hours stretched into an uncertain limbo as Marcus worked tirelessly, stabilizing her fragile condition against the odds. The planet outside remained indifferent, a bleak wasteland of death and desolation. Yet inside this small pocket of life, a fragile hope took root. Marcus's own body ached with exhaustion, but the determination in his heart burned bright. He did not know her name, her home, or the full story of her life. Yet in that moment, all that mattered was the breath she drew, the last breath he might be able to give. As night fell over the barren landscape, Marcus prepared to activate the emergency extraction beacon, hoping to call for Federation aid. But before he could, the alien warrior's hand twitched, her fingers reaching out with surprising strength to grasp his arm. In that touch, Marcus felt a surge of warmth, a silent vow forged in the crucible of pain and hope. Though words failed them both, a bond had been sealed, two souls intertwined in the vastness of space, strangers yet kin. And so, under the indifferent stars of a dying world, Marcus Calder gave his last breath to a dying alien warrior without knowing her name, but forever changed by the life he chose to save. Marcus Calder had never encountered anything quite like this alien warrior. The subtle rise and fall of her chest, strained and shallow beneath the battered armor, was the fragile thread tethering her to life. Around them, the ashen winds whipped cold and merciless across the blasted wasteland, an expanse where no mercy had been shown in generations of brutal conflict. The planet's surface was a shattered mosaic of charred ruins, twisted metal, and scorched earth, relics of a war that had long outlasted the memory of those who had started it. It was a place where hope was a currency long spent, and survival was an act of rebellion against the encroaching void. Yet here, in the midst of desolation, Marcus had found a living heartbeat. His mind flickered back to the countless missions he had flown into dangerous zones, charted unmarked territories, and faced the grim realities of war. He had seen death close, had wrestled with the cold finality of endings. But nothing had prepared him for the weight of responsibility pressing on his chest now, not just to survive, but to save a life utterly alien and inexplicably precious. His hands worked methodically, scanning the warrior's vitals with his suit's advanced medical interface, overlaying diagnostic data in his visor as he deployed nanite swarms to halt internal bleeding and stabilize critical systems. Every procedure was a race against time, each second a battle with the creeping void. The alien's skin shimmered faintly beneath the fractured plates of her armor, a living canvas of complex patterns that pulsed with a bioluminescent glow. Marcus's scanners revealed a network of subdermal fibers interwoven with neural pathways and advanced biological adaptation that seemed to serve as both a sensory array and a form of communication. Her physiology was a marvel of evolutionary engineering, perfectly tuned for the brutal environments she had endured. Yet now, battered and broken, those same adaptations were stretched thin, their faint pulses flickering as if struggling to hold back the abyss. Her eyes opened slowly, irises shifting through a spectrum of colors that seemed to convey pain, confusion, and a flicker of recognition. Though she could not speak in any language Marcus understood, her gaze was fierce and alive, demanding acknowledgement, pleading silently for aid. There was no time for hesitation. Marcus activated the emergency life support modules embedded in his suit, extending biorepair stimulants designed for human trauma, but hopeful to stabilize her alien physiology. He moved with steady hands, applying the patches and injections he had memorized over countless hours of training. The warrior's breathing eased fractionally, a subtle victory against the ravages of injury. Outside, the sky was a bruised canvas of swirling clouds and distant lightning, the planet's unstable atmosphere thrumming with latent energy. The wreckage of ancient war machines lay scattered like forgotten monuments, rusted and silent witnesses to a history written in blood and fire. In this forsaken place, survival was an act of defiance. Marcus felt a kinship with the alien before him, both outcasts in a galaxy consumed by conflict, both fighting against the relentless tide of oblivion. He did not know her name, nor the language of her people, but he recognized the warrior's spirit, a flame unextinguished by pain or despair. Hours bled into one another as Marcus maintained his vigil, alternating between administering medical aid and scanning for signs of further danger. The alien's systems, though damaged, responded to the nanite therapies with remarkable resilience. Her heart rate stabilized, and subtle neurological signals indicated a fragile return of consciousness. In the low light of the dying sun, Marcus allowed himself a moment of reflection. The galaxy was vast and indifferent, yet in this small, dust-choked crater, two lives had collided in a moment of shared fate. The human and the alien strangers from worlds light years apart had become bound by the simple, profound act of saving a breath. But the respite was tenuous. Marcus knew that time was a cruel adversary. The planet's atmosphere was toxic, its surface unstable, and his own vessel miles away, unable to offer immediate refuge. His comm channels remained silent, the nearest outposts too distant and preoccupied with their own struggles to respond quickly. Yet retreat was not an option. To abandon the warrior now would be to consign her to a slow death amid the ruins. Marcus's resolve hardened. He would give her every chance, even if it meant risking everything. As night fell, the alien's breathing deepened, her eyes flickering with signs of lucidity. She attempted to move, her limbs weak but purposeful, reaching out toward Marcus in a gesture that transcended language. He grasped her hand gently, feeling the warmth and subtle pulse of life beneath the strange patterns of her skin. A silent promise passed between them, a vow to fight against the darkness, to cling to hope in a galaxy consumed by endless war. Though her name remained a mystery, her presence was undeniable, a beacon in the void. Marcus prepared to signal his ship for extraction, his thoughts racing with plans for stabilization and transport. Yet a shadow stirred in the distance, faint, but unmistakable. Movement. He scanned the horizon with renewed urgency. Hostile forces, scavengers, or worse, were converging on their location, drawn by the faint energy signatures and the promise of salvage. The sanctuary he had hoped for was slipping away, replaced by the harsh reality of survival once more. With the alien warrior at his side, Marcus steeled himself. Together, they would face the coming storm, two fighters bound by fate, without names but united in their final breath. Chapter 2. Bound by breath and battle. The world around Marcus Calder was unrelenting in its hostility. The once dying planet now seemed to thrum with a tense energy, as if the scarred landscape itself sensed the fragile alliance forming between two beings so different, yet so deeply entwined by fate. The alien warrior, still fragile but slowly regaining strength, was both mystery and marvel. Her survival defied reason and promised secrets that could unravel the galaxy's tangled threads of war and peace. Marcus's own body ached from exhaustion and the weight of responsibility, but retreat was impossible. The desert winds howled like the ghosts of lost armies, urging him forward, whispering warnings of dangers unseen yet imminently close. Within the shell of his exosuit, Marcus's mind raced through the impossible logistics of survival. His ship was a lifeline, but anchored miles away amidst the rocky outcrops that blurred beneath the rising dust. The hostile factions that plagued this sector moved like shadows in the dark, their patrols and scouts relentless and merciless. Every step towards safety was a gamble, every breath a defiance against a galaxy that seemed determined to swallow hope. Yet in the grip of despair, Marcus found a strange solace in the steady pulse of life beside him, the alien warrior's slow, deliberate breaths, a rhythm beating out a silent message of resilience. He could no longer ignore the gravity of what he had done. Saving this enigmatic figure had thrust him into a web of complexities far beyond his understanding. The warrior's armor, though battered, bore symbols of rank and allegiance from a culture long erased from the Federation's official histories. Her very existence challenged the accepted narratives of the war that had torn this region apart. Marcus realized with dawning clarity that she was a living relic, a keeper of memories and truths buried beneath layers of conflict and silence. And as her condition stabilized, it became clear that the bond formed in those first desperate moments was more than chance. It was a shared destiny, a fragile thread linking their fates across the cold expanse of space. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the jagged terrain, Marcus fashioned a makeshift shelter amid the skeletal remains of a fallen war machine. His movements were methodical, deploying energy barriers to shield against the worsening dust storms, setting up a temporary medbay to monitor the aliens' vitals, and programming autonomous drones to patrol the perimeter. His military training blended seamlessly with the improvisation born from years of scavenging and survival in the Outer Rim's lawless frontiers. Yet beneath the veneer of control lay a simmering tension, a restless energy born of uncertainty. The warrior's recovery was slow, punctuated by moments of lucid awareness and painful lapses into unconsciousness. Marcus watched over her like a sentinel, aware that their fragile truce was as much about survival as it was about trust. Communication, or the lack thereof, was their greatest challenge. The aliens' language was a complex symphony of tones and gestures, foreign yet hauntingly beautiful. Marcus, trained in universal linguistics but faced with a dialect undocumented and enigmatic, struggled to bridge the gulf. Yet in the silent exchanges, the touch of a hand, the meeting of eyes, the shared vulnerability of two beings clinging to life, something profound emerged. They were no longer simply rescuer and rescued, but comrades in arms against a galaxy indifferent to their plight. Marcus found himself drawn to her strength beneath the fragility, the way her gaze flared with the memory of battles fought and lost, and a fierce will to endure. Night deepened, and the stars above bore silent witness to their struggle. The nebula's distant glow painted the sky in ethereal hues, a reminder of the vast, unknowable cosmos that stretched beyond their fragile sanctuary. Yet even in this remote outpost of desolation, threats loomed. Scouting drones detected distant movements, shadows of hostile forces inching closer, drawn by the faint energy signatures and the promise of a prize long forgotten. Marcus prepared for what he knew must come, steeling his nerves and readying defenses. The alien warrior, though weakened, offered what strength she could muster, her eyes burning with quiet resolve. In the quiet moments before dawn, Marcus ventured a question, not with words, but with gestures and a simple name. The warrior's response was a whisper of sound, a breath of a name lost to the stars, but heavy with meaning. Though he could not speak her tongue, the name was a promise, the key to a history he was only beginning to understand. He realized that saving her was not just an act of compassion, but a turning point. Together, they embodied a hope that transcended language and species, a defiance against the endless cycle of war and death. Their fragile alliance became a beacon, a spark that would ignite forces beyond their immediate comprehension. As dawn broke, washing the battered landscape in cold light, Marcus prepared to carry the alien warrior towards salvation and into the heart of a conflict that would test every bond, every sacrifice, and every breath they had left. The moments that followed were suspended in a delicate balance of hope and desperation, a fragile thread that tethered two souls from disparate worlds in the cold expanse of a war-torn planet. Marcus called her, a man hardened by years of combat and exploration, found himself adrift in a sea of unfamiliar emotions. The alien warrior beside him, whose name remained an enigma, was no longer just a figure of survival. She had become a symbol of an unseen history, a living testament to the vast complexities of a galaxy consumed by conflict and forgotten stories. As the planet's toxic winds swept through the broken valleys and crumbled fortresses, Marcus vowed to shield her from the darkness that threatened to consume them both. Days stretched into nights as Marcus navigated the treacherous terrain with a new purpose. Each step was a calculated gamble, a dance with death amidst the jagged ruins and shifting sands that hid dangers both natural and human-made. The warrior's condition, while improved from the brink, remained precarious. Her breaths, once ragged and fleeting, grew steadier but were still labored, a constant reminder of the fine line between life and the abyss. Marcus improvised a mobile medbay, using salvage technology and the limited resources from his ship to stabilize her vital systems. The nanite therapies and bioregenerative treatments he administered were rudimentary compared to the advanced medical technologies she must have once had, yet they were enough to keep the fragile flame flickering. Communication between them was a labyrinth of gestures, expressions, and the faintest whispers of sound, none of which Marcus fully understood. He had trained extensively in xenolinguistics, but her tongue was a symphony of tones, clicks, and vibrations unlike any recorded dialect. Still, through shared glances and patient mimicry, a silent dialogue emerged. She conveyed warnings of dangers, memories of battles, and fleeting glimpses of a world lost to war. Marcus listened and learned, piecing together fragments of her story like a puzzle whose edges were forever frayed. He saw in her eyes the pain of exile, the burden of command, and the fierce pride of a warrior who had never surrendered, even in the face of annihilation. Their journey was punctuated by skirmishes and narrow escapes. The planet, scarred by decades of warfare, was a hunting ground for scavengers and mercenaries, hardened survivors eager to claim any relic or resource that might tip the scales in an endless cycle of power struggles. Marcus's combat training and tactical acumen were put to the test as he fended off hostile patrols, laying traps, and using guerrilla tactics to evade overwhelming forces. The alien warrior, though weakened, fought with a grace and ferocity that reminded him why she was more than a casualty of war. She was a legend in the making, a sentinel guarding secrets that many would kill to possess. One evening, as the twin moons cast pale light over the craggy horizon, Marcus and the warrior found refuge in the remains of a once great citadel. Its walls, pockmarked by plasma fire and siege damage, stood as silent witnesses to battles long past. Inside the shattered halls, Marcus set up their camp, tending to the warrior's wounds with meticulous care. The air was thick with dust and the scent of ozone, but within this ruined sanctuary, a fragile peace settled. The warrior's gaze softened for a moment, and she reached out, tracing symbols in the air, ancient runes that glowed faintly with bioluminescent energy. Marcus watched in awe, sensing that these symbols were more than mere language. They were keys to knowledge, to power, to the history she carried within her. The nights in the citadel were filled with uneasy rest and whispered revelations. Marcus learned that the warrior belonged to a race known as the Virilians, an ancient species whose civilization had once thrived among the stars, renowned for their mastery of bioengineering and psychic warfare. Their downfall had been swift and brutal, decimated by an unknown enemy whose shadow still stretched across the galaxy. The warrior was one of the last of her kind, a guardian of their legacy and a bearer of secrets that could alter the fate of countless worlds. Yet her identity remained shrouded in mystery, a nameless sentinel whose story was etched in scars and silence. Amid these revelations, Marcus grappled with his own sense of purpose. He was a soldier, a mechanic, a survivor, but now he was something more. The bond forged in desperation had become a catalyst for transformation. He was no longer an isolated scout, but a protector, a companion, and perhaps the key to a future that none had dared to imagine. The alien warrior's presence challenged his assumptions about loyalty, honor, and the true cost of survival in a galaxy ruled by violence and fear. As dawn broke, painting the sky in hues of violet and gold, Marcus prepared to move once more. The enemy forces, relentless in their pursuit, had regrouped and tightened their net. The fragile sanctuary of the Citadel was no longer safe. With renewed determination, Marcus helped the warrior to her feet, supporting her as they stepped into the uncertain light of a new day. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but it was also a path of hope, a journey toward a destiny neither of them fully understood, but both were bound to follow. Their footsteps echoed through the empty halls, carrying the weight of survival and the promise of a legacy yet to be written. The alien warrior's hand found Marcus's in a gesture of trust, a silent vow that transcended words. Though her name remained unknown, her story was alive, a beacon in the darkness, a testament to the enduring power of breath, battle, and the unbreakable bonds forged in the crucible of war. Together, they stepped into the horizon, two warriors intertwined by fate, ready to face the storm that awaited beyond the shattered world. Chapter 3: Echoes of War and Memory. The shattered landscape behind Marcus and the alien warrior was a scar upon the fabric of a galaxy worn thin by centuries of conflict and betrayal. Each step they took beyond the ruins of the ancient citadel echoed with the weight of forgotten battles and lingering ghosts. Yet, as they pressed forward into the unknown, the air around them seemed charged with a strange vitality and energy born not only from the planet's unstable core, but from the burgeoning bond between two disparate souls bound by shared adversity and unspoken understanding. The warrior, still fragile but growing stronger with each passing hour, carried the weight of an entire civilization upon her shoulders. Her race, the Virilians, had once been a beacon of technological marvel and psychic prowess, a species whose advancements had outpaced even the most ambitious empires. Their mastery of bioengineering and neural symbiosis had allowed them to transcend many limitations of biology and technology, weaving flesh and machine into harmonious existence. But that glory was now a fading memory, shattered by an enemy whose name was whispered in fear and hatred across star systems. Marcus felt the enormity of the burden she bore. Though he knew little of her language, the warrior's every gesture, every fleeting expression, spoke volumes of loss, sacrifice, and a relentless desire for redemption. As they traversed the hazardous terrain navigating jagged cliffs, toxic swamps, and labyrinthine caverns, the silence between them was filled with the hum of survival. Their communication was minimal, a blend of shared glances and tentative touches, but the trust was palpable, a fragile alliance forged in the crucible of necessity. The path was perilous, fraught with dangers both environmental and man-made. Warlords and scavenger bands roamed the region, preying upon anything left alive. Yet Marcus and the warrior moved with a purpose that defied their vulnerability. His tactical instincts and experience in guerrilla warfare meshed seamlessly with her enhanced reflexes and psychic awareness. Together, they were more than the sum of their parts, a fusion of human tenacity and alien grace that allowed them to evade ambushes and outmaneuver pursuers with uncanny precision. In moments of respite, Marcus attempted to piece together fragments of the warrior's history. The Virilians' fall was not simply the result of external aggression, but also internal strife, a civil war fueled by competing factions vying for control of forbidden technologies and ancient relics. The warrior had been a sentinel, a guardian entrusted with secrets that could tip the scales of power across the stars. Her survival was a beacon of hope to those who believed the Virilian legacy need not be lost to oblivion. Their journey took them to the remnants of a hidden temple, nestled within a valley shrouded by luminescent fungi and crystalline growths that pulsed softly with bioelectric energy. The temple was a relic of the Virilian zenith, a repository of knowledge and power protected by intricate defense mechanisms and ancient codes. Marcus and the warrior entered cautiously, navigating corridors lined with glyphs that shimmered with forgotten wisdom. Here, the alien's connection to her past grew stronger, her mind interfacing with the temple's neural networks, unlocking memories encoded within the very walls. Through this communion, Marcus glimpsed visions of a world lost to time Virilian cities of towering spires and bioengineered forests, battles waged in the void with weapons that bent reality, and a people whose destiny had been both brilliant and tragic. He saw the warrior's role not merely as a survivor, but as a keeper of balance, charged with preventing the misuse of technologies that could unravel the fabric of the galaxy itself. These revelations deepened his resolve, intertwining his fate irrevocably with hers. But their sanctuary was short-lived. The enemies who hunted the warrior were relentless shadowy factions who coveted the Virelian's secrets and sought to extinguish any trace of their legacy. Scouts and assassins lurked in the periphery, their presence a constant threat. Marcus fortified their position, deploying sensor arrays and automated defenses, but he knew it was only a matter of time before confrontation became inevitable. When the attack came, it was swift and brutal. The temple's halls erupted in a cacophony of gunfire and energy blasts, ancient stone shattering under the onslaught. Marcus and the warrior fought side by side, their movements synchronized in a deadly ballet of survival. She wielded weapons fused with her own biology blades that hummed with psychic energy and projectiles guided by thought. Marcus relied on his training and ingenuity, using the environment to his advantage, setting traps and directing counterattacks. The battle tested their limits, but their combined strength and trust forged a bond unbreakable even in the face of overwhelming odds. In the aftermath, as silence settled once more, Marcus tended to the warrior's wounds, his hands steady despite the fatigue that threatened to consume him. They shared a moment of quiet connection, a recognition that their journey had become something far greater than survival. It was a quest for redemption, for justice, and for the chance to rewrite a fate long sealed by war. Their path forward was uncertain, shadowed by enemies and the vast unknown. Yet as they stepped from the ruins into the pale light of dawn, Marcus felt a stirring of hope. The alien warrior's name remained a mystery, but her story was alive, etched in scars, whispered in memories, and carried in the breath they shared. Together, they would face the darkness, bound by a promise forged in the crucible of battle and the unyielding will to endure. Chapter 4. The Breath That Changed the Stars. The weight of countless suns seemed to press upon Marcus Calder's shoulders as he stood beside the alien warrior on the brink of a vast precipice, overlooking the shattered remnants of a world once vibrant with life and now scarred by unrelenting war. The desolation stretched beyond sight, a brutal testament to civilizations torn apart by ambition and fear. Yet here, in this fragile moment between devastation and dawn, two unlikely souls, one human, one Virelian, were bound not only by survival, but by a legacy that would ripple across galaxies. The warrior's breath was steady now, a soft rhythm that matched the pulse of the planet beneath their feet. Though her name remained locked behind tongues and time, her spirit spoke volumes through silent resilience and the unspoken language of shared hardship. Marcus had come to understand that names, while important, were merely one thread in the intricate tapestry of identity. It was the breath they shared, the struggles endured, and the hopes carried forward that truly defined who they were. Together, they were a bridge between worlds, a living testament to the possibility of unity in a cosmos fractured by conflict. Their journey to this precipice had been forged in hardship and blood. From the jagged cliffs of the ancient citadel to the luminescent caverns of lost temples, they had faced enemies both corporeal and spectral. Scavenger warlords, shadowy assassins, and the cold indifference of space itself had sought to claim or extinguish the warrior's legacy. Yet with each trial, Marcus and the warrior had emerged stronger, their bond deepening into something neither had anticipated, a profound trust rooted in mutual respect and a shared will to endure. Marcus's hands, once merely instruments of survival and repair, had become shields and guides, while the warrior's silent strength and ancient wisdom illuminated paths through the darkness. At the precipice, the horizon stretched endlessly, a kaleidoscope of stars and nebulae casting ethereal light upon their faces. It was a place where the past met the future, a vantage from which they could see not only the devastation wrought by war, but the fragile glimmers of hope that flickered beyond. Marcus turned to the warrior, catching the subtle play of colors in her shifting irises, and felt a surge of determination. Whatever their origins, their destinies were intertwined, and the breath they shared was a catalyst for change. But peace was a fleeting shadow in a galaxy ruled by ambition and fear. As they prepared to descend into the valley below, a distant roar shattered the stillness. A fleet of enemy vessels breached the planet's atmosphere, their designs sleek and lethal, emissaries of a power that sought to claim the warriors' secrets for itself. The forces that hunted them were relentless, fueled by ancient grudges and a thirst for dominion. Yet Marcus was undeterred. With the warrior at his side, he knew they carried more than weapons or armor. They bore the legacy of survival and the unbreakable bond of breath and battle. Back at their makeshift command center, Marcus coordinated defenses with precision born of experience and necessity. His voice was steady over the comms as he directed allied forces, deployed automated turrets, and orchestrated ambushes. The warrior's presence was felt in every corner of the battlefield. Her psychic resonance bolstered allies and disoriented foes, a living weapon woven of mind and matter. Together, they turned the tide of battle, their unity a beacon amidst the chaos. Amid the turmoil, Marcus found a moment to confront the warrior's past, a repository of memories encoded deep within the neural interface embedded in her armor. With cautious reverence, he initiated a sequence to unlock fragments of her history. Visions flooded the chamber, the grandeur of Varelian civilization, their bioengineered cities pulsating with life, the brutal descent into civil war, the sacrificial missions to safeguard forbidden knowledge, and the ultimate collapse under the shadow of a merciless adversary. Through these echoes, Marcus glimpsed the full weight of the burden she carried, a responsibility to preserve a legacy that could alter the very fabric of the galaxy. These revelations steeled his resolve. He was no longer a mere survivor, but a guardian of hope. The breath he had given her was more than life. It was a spark that rekindled the fading light of a people and their dreams. The warrior, in turn, found in Marcus not only a protector, but a partner and anchor in the storm of uncertainty. Their destinies were now inseparable, woven together by acts of courage and the silent promise of trust. The final battle came beneath the swirling skies of a tempestuous storm. Enemy forces descended in overwhelming numbers, their firepower vast and unyielding. But the alliance between man and alien was a force forged in the crucible of shared struggle. The battlefield erupted in flashes of plasma and psychic energy, the air thick with the roar of engines and the clash of wills. Marcus fought with relentless tenacity, his movements a blend of tactical precision and raw instinct. Beside him, the warrior moved with fluid grace, her blades and abilities turning the tide against seemingly insurmountable odds. As the conflict reached its zenith, a moment of profound clarity crystallized between them. The warrior, weakened but unbroken, reached out with trembling hands, pressing a crystalline shard into Marcus's palm. It was a relic of her people, an ancient artifact imbued with energies that could restore and protect, a beacon of life in a galaxy shadowed by death. Marcus understood its significance immediately. This was not merely a gift, but a charge, a call to carry forward the legacy they had ignited together. With the enemy forces breaking and retreating into the shadows, Marcus and the warrior stood amidst the ruins, breath mingling with the electric storm. The planet beneath them, scarred but enduring, seemed to pulse with renewed life. The galaxy beyond was vast and uncertain, but they faced it together, bearers of a legacy reborn through sacrifice, trust, and the final breath given without knowledge of name or origin. In that breath lay the promise of a new dawn, a future shaped not by division but by unity, not by fear but by hope. The human and the alien, strangers and warriors, had forged a bond that transcended worlds, a testament to the enduring power of life, the strength found in shared struggle, and the unbreakable will to survive. And as the stars wheeled overhead, indifferent yet eternal, Marcus Calder and the nameless warrior stepped forward into a galaxy forever changed, carrying within them the breath of a legacy that would echo across time and space.